Glory. Okay, are we up for it? Yeah? What are you listening to on there? Oh, she sends voice messages. Okay. We are in John chapter 11, for those of you guys who want to join us in our reading this evening. It's quite a long bit of scripture, but we're going to read it and then we're going to dig into just the end bit, okay? Is that all right? So it's a big old story. Everyone knows the story. It's Lazarus being raised from the dead. You guys know this story, right? We've come to the point where essentially raising someone from the dead seems less scary than spitting in their eyes. Okay, so that's where we're at. Okay, folks, and there's not much left between this and having to get our spittle out. Okay, so are we up for it? Now, given that there's no dead people in the room tonight, we're going to have to embellish this a little bit. Is that right? And we're going to have to make this about how Jesus heals. Keeping in mind that that when someone is dead, essentially they're sick. They're like totally sick, right? They're a goner, right? So that's the end of their sickness, death, isn't it? Yeah?
Okay, but what if you revive this person, but they're living on earth? Isn't heaven better?
Indeed it is, yeah. So we're not necessarily talking about raising the dead today, okay? We're talking about healing, okay? Is that right? So... although in that regard, so if I could just say that I think that death is essentially the culmination of sickness. Okay, so in the same way as someone might be healed before death, I think that essentially maybe they could be healed after death. Yeah, we good? Death is a culmination. It's the climax of sickness. Yeah? Yeah, whether sickness is our body's starting to give up because we get old and essentially, natural things happen when we get older and then we end up dying. Or it could be that, whatever sicknesses there are out there, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, lots and lots of sicknesses that lead to death, right? Yeah? Pneumonia. Lots and lots of things, okay, that lead to death. And ultimately, sicknesses all aim to lead to death. So what I'm saying is that sickness, the culmination of sickness is death. And so if we can catch sickness before death and heal it, then that's better than catching it after death, right? Yeah. Lovely, excellent, cool. Paul's shaking his head. Catch it after death, yeah? So in this instance, Jesus is going to catch it after death, yeah? Yeah? All right? So in this instance, Jesus is going to catch it after death. Yeah? All right? Mostly to prove a point. All right? But he also does it 2 other times. Okay? And I'm not sure whether they're necessarily to prove a point. Although one of them, we could look into it theologically and see that there's a big point to it. But the young man at the side of the road, for example, when his mum's just sad, Jesus just has pity on her, just has compassion. And so he raises the young man to life, There might be a good theological point in there, but it looks like Jesus just had some feelings and acted on them, okay? Is that all right? So let's for now say that we would like to heal folks before death, but Jesus can also do stuff, and so can we after the point of death, after the climax. We cool?
Do they get resurrected?
Well, this will be it, yeah. So we're going to read about that in just a second. In answer to your question, why would we want to raise someone from the dead?
Atheist-wise and people who aren't followers of Christ, or at least lukewarm Christians, that would make sense.
Yeah. So I think maybe we could ask the question, why would we raise someone from the dead? Another point, if that's all right, just in case we get too stuck into that and don't get into the scriptures, all right? However, I just wanted to point out the whole thing of why would we want to raise someone from the dead if they're in heaven, right? Yeah? And I would point to, does anyone know this old story of Wigglesworth and his wife? You guys heard that story? Apparently, Wigglesworth raised his wife from the dead, and she woke up and told him, "What are you playing at? I was in heaven, and I'd like to be there more." And so he had to let her go again. Okay? Yeah, Yeah, so she dies again. Okay, so yeah, just a famous. Well, I say famous. I don't know how famous it is looking at you guys, and your faces. How famous that is, but Sophie's obviously heard about it because I've probably talked about it in the past. So, why would you raise a Christian from the dead? Maybe just purely and simply because you can. The other thing is because maybe there's folks around who have never seen God's power like that. Now, if I was to just quickly say how many folks have seen someone raised from the dead in real life, how many people have seen that? No one? Okay. Steph and Helen, who have been here sometimes on a Tuesday night, they're usually on a Monday night, they've seen someone raised from the dead in a church service before who died, and then they checked the pulse and they said that they were dead. And as the ambulance was coming, I was all praying for them, and then they started breathing again, okay? I've also seen, if you guys are into it and want to see some miracles happening, which you can on video, you can watch a film called Sons of God, okay? If you search for it on the internet, it starts off in a church in South Africa, I think, where a fella has a huge church, and his church walls are covered in crutches, and they're covered in like wheelchairs and that sort of stuff from people who have been healed, right? Really cool, right? And then in the film, you see a guy literally being raised from the dead. Now, unfortunately, you're not there to take his pulse, so you've got to have some faith that they're not just faking. But essentially, that's what happens on camera, okay? That's crazy, right? Yeah? So you can check that out if you'd like, Sons of God, okay?
So if someone wants to have a heart attack here,
Yeah.
you could just destroy them?
Well, so assuming that their pulse has stopped, yeah, and thus they're dead, then we would, as a church, I think I'd certainly have the faith to have a go, right? Yeah, not only would I have the faith to have a go, but I would consider it my responsibility to have a go.
I've seen someone get hit by a car, and I just prayed for them, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Who else has like seen accidents and then just prayed at the side of the road? Yeah, I do that sort of stuff. Yeah, because why wouldn't you, right? But it's a bit more, isn't it? It's a bit different if, like, you know, you see an accident happen and it's right there in the road, and then you're like, okay, I've got my church lanyard. You know, it says Pastor Dad's on it, Reverend Darren, and it would be totally normal and acceptable for Reverend Darren to go over and pray for the person who's been run over or something, right? That would be normal, right? I'm sure no one would think that was weird. I think most people would think that's very cute or something, right? Yeah?
It's almost a daily occurrence where I've almost got hit by a car.
Right.
So I don't know if minutes praying or not.
So I could easily step into that scenario, right? And pray for whoever it is. However, there's something that stops me, right? Do we think it's social awkwardness, or do we think it's a lack of faith?
I think it's more
Social awkwardness?
Yeah.
Both?
I don't think
Actually, I'll say faith, because I reckon if you were 100% convinced they'll be healed,
Yeah.
then social awkwardness, you'd be like, well, there's no awkwardness because they're about to get healed.
That's right, yeah. If I was 100% convinced,
very good explanation.
Faith makes up for the confidence.
100% convinced that God can, but you're not 100% convinced that God will. And that's what would
Lovely.
hold me back.
yeah. So I'm 100% convinced that God can, which, by the way, for me is all the time. Yeah. But am I 100% convinced that he will?
Well, he answers every prayer, but just not how you want it. Just like when Jesus was in the garden.
Yeah. So yeah, he does answer every prayer, but not always how you want it. Personally, I think that's a cop-out for every Christian everywhere, to say, I'm not going to get involved right now. Anyway, shall we...
It wouldn't stop me getting involved as in praying,
Yep.
but it might stop me getting involved as in going up to
Yeah.
a grieving family and
Yeah.
saying, I'm going to pray for him to be raised from
Yeah.
the dead.
What about
Yeah.
But
like a
it
funeral?
wouldn't stop me praying.
A funeral. Yeah, and okay, let's move on. So let's read this story, shall we, before we get too wild in this place? Because, by the way, if any of you guys were brave enough to go to a funeral and have a go, I would come and be your wingman, but I would probably step back a bit. Okay. But I will be there for when punches start flying. You know, like, I'd be there if you fail, you know? I'd be there, and I may even protect you by laying a few punches myself. Okay. In the name of Jesus. Okay. Now, a certain man was sick. A certain man was sick. Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was the Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So the sisters sent word to him, that is Jesus, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. But when Jesus heard this, he said, this sickness is not to end in death. All right? This sickness is not to end in death, but for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified by it. Okay? Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he then stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. He then stayed where he was for another 2 days. Didn't even say what he was doing. Then after this, he said to his disciples, let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you. Are you going there again? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. Then he said, and after that he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go so that I may awaken him out of his sleep. Okay? Then the disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Yeah? Makes sense, right? Yeah? Now Jesus had spoken of his death. Okay? So Jesus is saying he's dead. Okay? But they thought he was speaking of a literal sleep. Do you think the disciples would have followed him if they knew that he was dead? Are you sure? Okay. So Jesus then said to them plainly, oh, here he goes. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Therefore, Thomas, come on, Thomas. I've already read this today and I already know what Thomas is about to say. Therefore, Thomas, who is called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go so that we may die with him. Yeah, because Thomas is scared that the Pharisees are going to stone the disciples as well. Okay? Yeah? Let us also go so that we may die with him. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. Martha, therefore, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him. But Mary stayed at the house. Martha then said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Yeah? Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Yeah? So one day, Jesus is going to come back to earth and he's going to resurrect all of those who believe in him and take them to a new heaven. Okay? And you will have physical bodies, although you were dead and your body was either burnt or eaten by worms. You will have a new physical body, okay? Martha believes that. Jesus doesn't say that's not true. Okay? So Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord. I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. When she had said this, she went away and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, the teacher is here. And he is calling for you. And when she heard it, she got up quickly and was coming to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and consoling her, when they saw that Mary got up quickly and went out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Therefore, when Mary came where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, hang on, let me see if I can do a good voice. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, mate. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. So the Jews were saying, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? So Jesus again, being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and there was a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, okay, you ready? This is where Jesus is going to administer some healing. You ready? Jesus said, remove the stone. Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. The man who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with cloth. Jesus said to them, Unbind him and let him go. Therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw that what he had done believed in him. But some of them went and told the Pharisees. Okay? Cool. So, interesting. Mary, just make sure I'm right here. Jesus says, Father, thank you. Lazarus, hang on. What did he say? Remove the stone. Martha. There you go. Martha, the sister of the deceased. Showed a bit of doubt, right? Yeah? You okay with that? Cool, just to note it, okay? We're just going to park that in the side of our brain. Martha, who had loads of faith in Jesus, had a bit of doubt at that moment, okay? That's okay, right? Jesus carries on anyway. So, remove the stone. Now, if we are going to do this in this space, there are no caves and there are no stones. There are no dead people here right now, okay? However, say again?
Well, not yet.
Not yet. All right, calm down. However, you're working on it. However, there are some people who maybe have a sickness or something else, right? Yeah? Huh? Well, yeah. So it says, like, it gives us shows us that he's already got stuff going on, isn't he? And so they knew that he was sick, and so they did call on Jesus before he died. You know, so it wasn't a freak accident. Yeah, like they knew he was going to die. Yeah, is that cool? So Lazarus was sick, and he
didn't kind of just drop dead, and people were like, what?
That's it. Yeah. Okay, so Lazarus was sick. Sickness ended or climaxed in death. Jesus still healed the guy. Yeah? And he did so, first of all, by saying, remove the stone. Now, let's think of some sicknesses. Has anyone got any sicknesses in the room? Anyone got anything going on? Yeah? Go on, Paul, if you don't mind sharing a little bit. Your whole body feels like it's had it. Okay. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So let's say that, okay, let's basically, you're saying that you struggle with fatigue, yeah? And you get breathless. And as a result, what things have you put in place? So what have you done in reaction to said sickness? Okay, but what things do you have? You see, so what I'm saying here is, where I'm going. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a mobility scooter. Okay, that's a thing that has been put in place because of your sickness. Yeah? The thing that was put in place because of Lazarus' sickness was a stone. You see? Yeah? So, as an example here, what we could say is remove the mobility scooter. Get rid of the yeah? Go on. Interesting, yeah. So I'm, maybe I've got a pin in my right leg, and so I have a crutch that I lean on that helps me to walk and not put too much pressure on the leg. Yeah, yeah. So we might say remove the crutch. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What other stuff might we? Anyone else got any sicknesses or anything that they would be happy to share? Just a little, yeah. Okay, so you got an issue in your shoulder. Which shoulder? Right shoulder. Okay, your right shoulder. And do you have anything that is currently been put in place to help with your recovery? Okay, so he's got to keep it nimble. Okay. It might be that you could have a cast on said shoulder or one of those slings. Yeah? And so it wouldn't be, I don't think it's a stretch to say remove the sling. Yeah? Does that sound like a reasonable, anecdotal? Yeah? Cool. Brilliant. Yeah, so excellent, by the way. Yeah, that's a bit deep, isn't it? My own doubt could be a stone in this situation, right? Just out of interest, how does one overcome doubt? Brilliant. Lovely. I'm just going to try and say that a little bit quicker for the recording that maybe no one's going to watch, but just in case they do. So essentially what you said was to act quickly, because the longer you wait, the bigger the doubt grows. Yeah? Oh, that's pretty cool. By the way, that's me all over. My way of dealing with anxiety or doubt and all that sort of stuff is I don't think about it until I'm about to do it. So I just don't think about it until it's time to do it, and then what inevitably happens is I do the thing that I know I'm going to be mad scared of, and then I come out the other end and my legs are like this, shaking, like and suddenly all that anxiety just suddenly hit me all at once. Anyone else do that? Yeah. Because sometimes you just got to jump, right? Yeah. And the only way to get past this moment, because I know if I wait, and a good example of this was actually when I was in Mallorca. We had our first ever holiday abroad, and I've probably told you this a few times, but there was some lads. We was on one of those little boats in the sea, and just near us there was like a big cliff, and these lads were like climbing at the cliff and jumping off, and I thought to myself, I may never get to go abroad again. And I may never get to jump off a cliff into the sea again. And so I need to do that because, you know, I've got to experience everything in my life, right? So I jumped off my little boat thing, and Laura was like, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" I was like, "Nah." And then I climbed at the side of this cliff. And then when I got to the top, there were these two lads that had obviously taken a bit too long, and now they was arguing about who was going to jump first. Knowing that if I join in the argument, it's just going to get worse for me, I just said, "Do you mind if I go?" So they parted, and I ran, and I just jumped. And as I jumped, there was so much air time that my legs were flapping in the air like this, and literally my bum hit the waves like so, and literally, it literally felt like a massive smack bum from God, you know. And I had that scripture in my mind. Do not put the Lord your God to the test. And I was... the worst thing is, Millie, you're laughing, right? I went so deep into the water. My bum hurt so bad. I went so deep into the water that I was like, I couldn't find the top. Like I know. I was like trying to find the top of the water because it was that deep. And then, like, because I was like swallowed a little bit, by the time I finally did get to the top, you know what happens when you get like seawater in your nose and your mouth? I was like... like swimming back to our little boat, like that. Yeah, great fun. Yeah. So that's why you don't do water.
That's why I stand on land. I'm not made for water, so I stand on land.
So there's one quite silly example, but I remember being at university, and each person would have to get up and say something in front of the class. And so I'd be the sort of person who would want to be the first person to take part, yeah? That's it, yeah. Be first, get it done, we're all over and done with, yeah? So best way for you and for me, certainly, in a case of feeling doubt, to, I guess, remove the stone, is to crack on and jump in, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah? Yeah?
One of the methods I used was clicking. So if I ever realised a doubt, I'd click, think about something else. And partly the way you do that is to stay
Okay.
doing things.
Sounds like you've got a bit of an issue there, bruv. Okay. But by the way, I do exactly the same thing. So I'll say you've got an issue, I've got an issue. We call it avoidance. Okay? But yeah, avoid the doubt, get it done. Yeah? We're good? Yeah? By the way, avoidance isn't good for you. We need to go and get some therapy. I know, so avoiding, like, to avoid the doubt, I just jump on in. And normally what I do, actually, if I'm totally honest with everyone, is, like I say, if I've got a hard conversation that's coming up, or if I've got to go and speak in front of, like, 200 people or something, which, by the way, even though I've been doing this for, like, 11 years, is still very nerve-wracking for me. What I would do is I just won't think about it. I won't think about the interview. I won't think about when I'm about to do something new. I won't think about any of those things. I'll literally just block it out of my mind, get busy doing stuff. I'll like do loads of other stuff. I'll think of loads of other stuff, do some gaming or whatever else until the moment that I do it, and then I'll crack on. Yeah? So...
We're thinking about doubts in the same about doubts stopping you from doing something good. Doubts making you do something bad.
Okay.
Oh, he's more of a holy man.
Okay.
He wasn't thinking sin.
Yeah. Okay. So, just for those of you who know how I do my sermons as well, when do I jot down my sermon, Adrian? About an hour before I get up and preach, right? Yeah. So I've been thinking about what I want to say, but I've not put it into an order. I don't put it into an order until maybe half hour before I actually get up and preach. Why is that? Two reasons. One of the reasons is because actually, even though I've been doing this for such a long time, I still get anxious. Okay? I still get it wrong. might still say some stuff wrong, etc., etc., okay? I might be talking about something that is, I went into a church once. I was preaching. I got invited to preach at a church in Glasgow. And when I walked in, I was meant to be doing Mark chapter 5, the woman with the issue of blood. And I was going to be talking about how God can heal all things, including cancer and everything else, right? And then we're going to pray for some people to be healed. Now, as I walked into the church, the pastor grabbed me and said, I'm really sorry to say, Darren, one of our treasured, most loved members of our church died last night of cancer. You don't have to preach if you don't want to. I can do it instead. To which I thought, I definitely can't preach on healing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? That's it, yeah, you definitely, right? So instead I thought, okay, let's talk about something else. So I got a feeling, I can't remember, maybe baptism of the Spirit or something I did in the end. But I cracked on because I hadn't put all of my eggs into one basket. Now, that isn't a good way to do things. I'm not saying you should do it that way, but for me, that works really well. The other reason that I write my notes just before I preach is because I want to essentially, I feel like Holy Spirit often speaks to me in that moment, So I want to be as fluid as possible. Anyway, all that being said, remove the stone. Yeah? Remove the stone. And then there's this massive sort of, not debate, but sort of a little bit of teaching, a little bit of rebuttal. Because Mary does show a little bit of doubt, I guess. And then Jesus tries to remind her of what he said in the past and remind her of the gospel and etc., etc. So there's a little bit of, going on there. And then he does this weird thing, doesn't he? He looks up to heaven and he does pray. He does pray on this occasion, doesn't he? But he doesn't pray for Lazarus, does he? He gives thanks for the opportunity to be a good witness. Yeah? Yeah? Just so you know, God, I'm actually here doing this for you. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm doing something that's absolutely mental. I'm so scared right now, if I'm totally honest. But this is for you, and I hope that I don't get the glory, but that you do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Yeah?
Because I think that's also one of the things where when people see you, for example, bring someone from the dead, they're going to start kind of, as a sense, worshipping you. Giving praise to you, where it all has to be towards the Lord.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. Interestingly, though, Jesus does say, what's he say? I knew that you always hear me, yeah? But because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me, yeah? Cool. So Jesus is essentially saying, whatever happens in this moment, whatever the headlines say, I want them to say that this man was sent by God to do this. Yeah? Cool? And so, if any of you guys have ever seen the moments that I get caught up in the press, which used to happen quite a lot actually with the old Lincolnite, didn't it? They seem to have a vendetta against me. But when I did get caught up in the press, I would often explain that I'm here on behalf of God, I'm on mission. I would say, I would always show love and compassion towards a person who's made a complaint, if there was a complaint. And then I would try to give glory to Jesus the best I can. Yeah? Yeah? I'm just a normal geezer, and you'll hear me say this all the time on these sorts of things. It's if you listen to the radio, I'm on the radio at the moment on a Friday night. I'm just a normal geezer trying to follow Jesus the best I can. Yeah? I'm nothing special. Jesus is special. Glorify him. Yeah? That cool? Right, lovely. Looking at the time. So here we go. When he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. Right. Okay. Now, if we were to use... Paul, can I use you as an example again? Yeah, lovely, excellent. So Paul's feeling fatigued, he's feeling out of breath, he's doing all these things, and so is got a mobility scooter, okay? So we've told Paul, Paul, get rid of the mobility scooter. Just sack it off. Like, leave it in the park. Chuck your keys in the river. You don't need that anymore, right? Okay? And then I thank God. Thank you, God, for the opportunity to glorify you once more. Because I know that if this happens today, all of heaven's going to break loose. And I think revival is going to happen in our city. It's going to be great. God, you're going to be absolutely in the ears of everyone. And loads of people are going to get saved. It's going to be a beautiful moment. And we get to see it. We get to be part of that. So thank you, Lord, I get to be part of this. Right? And then I call Paul forth. Or do I call what is in Paul forth? Because it would be a bit weird, wouldn't it, for me to then go, Paul, come forth, right? And then he might get up and walk towards me, right? Which is fine, but that's one way we could do things, right? Certainly, I guess if he was in a wheelchair, for example, you know, like, let's stand him up and kick the wheelchair away, get rid of that. Paul come forth, and then he walks for the first time in 20 years or something, and then everyone goes, ah, you know, all that sort of crazy stuff, right? Yay, Jesus is great, right? But I think there's something here that is deeper than just simply Lazarus come forth. Now, he is just calling Lazarus forth, but he's actually calling the dead man a live man, isn't he? Ah, do we all catch it? Is calling a dead man an alive man. Yeah? 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 We up for that? Yell?
So would it be like saying someone who's got a broken hand?
Not quite. I would say it's more like someone, let's say, for example, someone who suffers with crippling anxiety, okay? It's more like saying, peaceful, come forth. Because peace is the opposite of anxiety, right? Yeah? So call the life in them forth. Yeah? Now, what would it look like for someone who's fatigued? No. It's not even go run a marathon, is it? It's calling the thing that he needs forth. Yeah? So if you're fatigued, then I might call forth, I don't know how to say it.
Rest.
Energy, like, do you know what I mean? Like, brilliant. Vitality, well done. That's, you know, this is why we need people like Angie around, you know, because, oh man, you know, when I'm stuck for words, you know, like vitality come forth. Life come forth. Exuberance come forth. Energy come forth. Fit person come forth. You know, 30-inch waist Paul come forth, you know, because ultimately, like, you know, when you are exercising and stuff like that, you're going to be a bit, you know, we're going to get this down, aren't we? And me. I've been exercising. I've lost some weight. Yeah? Oh, thanks, everyone. Yeah. Go me. Go Jesus through me. Hallelujah. But do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense? Yeah? So, I remove, and here's the thing. A stone isn't just something that's been put in your life to aid in that space. It's also something that for a lot of people stops them from moving forth. Yeah? So the aid often becomes the blockage. Yeah? The aid often becomes a blockage. For example, and, you know, forgive me if this is very controversial, but maybe we can just go there anyway. If someone is claiming PIP, for example, which is like, you know, essentially a payment that folks get if they can't work and stuff because of an injury or some mental health stuff happening or whatever else. Very, like, by the way, totally believe in it. Keep on doing it. Give them more money. That's totally fine. I'm all up for that. However, if that financial blessing becomes a blockage because someone is scared of losing the blessing because they got healed. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah? And so the thing that is meant to help often becomes a blockage. Yeah? And that's just a few different examples. The crutch that someone is walking on could turn into something that jars their back out. In fact, I think Jean said to me earlier on, I prefer my walker because when I use my stick, it pulls my back out of alignment. And the stick is meant to be there to help her, but it gives her more pain, right? And could cause another injury. Crazy, right? Yeah? Does that all make sense? And hopefully I've not been too controversial.
It's same with braces, for example. For example, with braces, there is a specific amount of time you're meant to wear them.
Yep.
You're not meant to wear them forever. You're not meant to wear them for ages.
Yeah.
The doctors will give you a specific time because the longer it does, it strengthens the jaw.
Yeah.
Braces are mechanically, they are done, so they would keep, if you've gone over by it, they'll keep strengthening to the point where it actually messes up your teeth.
Yeah. That's a different type of braces, isn't it? And then there's like, say like if you break a leg, yeah, and you're in hospital, what do they give you? Painkillers. What sort of painkillers?
Like morphine usually.
Morphine, which is essentially
Drugs.
an opiate, yeah? An opiate is addictive. And so some people start off like needing it to dull the pain, and then they end up being addicted to it. Okay? Now, all of that being said, we certainly wouldn't want to victimize someone for relying on whatever it is. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to use an example. Is that all right? Yeah? Yo.
As soon as you said about like
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Because like Jesus was big news at the time, and lots of other people would have been leaving the well to go see Jesus, because Jesus was healing everyone who went near him, right? Yeah. And so it's interesting that this guy stays at the well.
On what he thought was the only way to get well.
Yeah. And it's like, I can be so fixed on what I think is the answer to my problem, right? Anyway.
I think that was it. Wasn't it? Because they were fixed that Jesus was going to come and heal their brother while he was sick.
Yeah.
And then when Jesus didn't get there till the brother had died, I think they were confused.
Yeah.
I
Well, yeah. 100%. Like, and you would be, wouldn't you?
was totally confused, like, what on earth's going on?
Yeah.
And I think there's probably more confusion than that.
Yeah. And also, they probably knew that it's a 3-day journey from there to there, right? And so Jesus arrives 4 days after the guy's dead. Yeah? You know what I mean? So, and we called him 2 days before he died. Yeah? You know what I mean? So not only did Jesus leave a bit late, but he also seemed to have took his time a little bit. Yeah? Well, it's like they would have known, like if he had left straight away, he would have got here a day after, And at that point, he might have still been alive. We might have been able to keep him alive. Anyway. We're getting into semantics and stuff that we don't really know, but yeah. They're certainly not expecting what they get. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Yes. It doesn't say in the scriptures, mate. So I don't want to talk about it in church. Just we're about to crack on. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait until you get to heaven to find out, mate. Okay. And if you carry on, that'll be sooner rather than later. Oh, I love it. Hey, church is good, isn't it? I love church. It's a beautiful place. Okay, so we're going to break into groups. Just out of interest, have we got anyone who needs healing tonight so that we can put you with someone who can then pray? Does anyone need healing at all? In anything? Yes, so Paul? Functional shoulder, we could pray for you. Well, not pray for you, administer healing to you. Okay? Again, it'd be interesting to find out. like have a quick think. We're going to have a quick think about how we can put this into practice, yeah? So, anyone else? We've got 2 people. Oh, go on. Your eyes, okay? It's a good job it's not spitting night, isn't it? Yeah. So we're gonna so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Cool. I reckon to help Barbara feel a bit more comfortable, could you go as a pair, and then let's have one of the lads join your pair. Which one are you more confident?
I don't mind.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? Yeah. You Miller, you up for going with the ladies? Yeah. Administer healing for them. Yeah. You up for that? Lovely. Excellent. Alex, we're going to send you to. Actually, Alex, we're going to send you to young Sam. I had to think then. There's so many names in the room. Okay, so you're going to chill out with Sam, and then that means you, Pastor, are going to come and minister to Paul. Is that all right? Yeah, that right?
Yeah.
Lovely. And Sophie, could you stop the recording, please? Oh, let me just say goodbye. See you, everyone. Go on.